So you want to know more about photography and taking better photos. That's awesome. Whether you are somebody just looking to take better family photos, you want to share your hobbies with people on social media, or maybe you're looking to develop and create your own brand, your own YouTube channel, your own whatever. Photography is one of those things that we all need to have at least a basic grasp of. Sorry, let me back up a minute. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is AJ. I run the Instagram page Knights of the Apex. It is primarily a bow hunting Instagram page. I do a lot of product and gear photography. I've gotten to work with brands like PSE, Magpul, Easton, Sever, Quattro, among others. And I've only been running the page for about 2 years, and I started completely from scratch. And up until a few months ago, I was running it almost completely on my phone. So there is definitely a lot of value that you can get out of the camera that you most likely already own and is in your pocket, or that you're watching this video on right now. I want to stress that to you because I think a lot of people feel that if they are going to get to the next level as far as photography goes, that they need a professional grade camera, and quite frankly, that's not the case. You have this in your pocket 24/7. You're gonna most likely carry this around more than any camera that you're going to purchase. So you might as well master this first before you move on to a quote-unquote pro camera. And the other thing that most people won't tell you is just because you have a more expensive camera is not going to make your photos any better. In fact, when you first get your first real camera, you're probably going to find that your shots look worse before they get better. The fact of the matter is that the software that comes in most cell phones, especially the new Google, Apple, and Samsung phones, that software on the automatic settings is far superior than the auto settings that even camera companies like Canon, Nikon, and Sony are putting into their pro-grade cameras. Reason being, pro-grade cameras are made for pro-grade consumers. If you don't have an understanding of the settings and functions that camera has, your photos are just going to look flat. They're not going to have the right composition, the lenses, everything. They're going to look like garbage before they start to look good. So master this before you move on to even considering spending $1,000 or more on a professional camera, because that's really what it's going to take to separate whatever camera you buy from what you have in your phone. It just is what it is. Now, what I'm probably going to have to do is break this into a three-part series. I want to try and cover the segments, kind of how I go through my thought process when I'm taking photos, and what I'm looking to do with them. And hopefully that gives you all enough information to do your own research on your own and seek out those experts to give you even greater insight and knowledge. Because while my photography style and the things that I'm going to talk about work for me, I am far from the end-all be-all expert on this. There are so many different rabbit holes that you can go down in photography, and I'll have links below to some content creators that have some absolutely phenomenal tutorials. And once you click on one, the way the algorithm works, right, I'm sure YouTube is going to take you down a spiral of different videos, and you'll probably come out on the other end a much more knowledgeable photographer than you did when you started this video. So that's my hopes for all of you. Today, we're going to be going over composition, what to have in your photo, how to have it, how to tell a story with your photo, because that should really be the goal. It should be to capture people's attention and capture people's imagination. And I think product photography or gear photography is a great way to kind of demonstrate some of these techniques and some of these ideas. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the camera, and you guys are going to ride along in a point of view as we try and turn just what could be a very boring photo of a just little pocket knife hopefully into something cool. So let's go. Okay, so what do we got? We got our subject right here. This is a Uinta knife. Shout out to Cali Bow Hunter for tagging me in one of their posts. Really cool little knife. They're a little company out of Utah. Uwinta is also half of my last name, so I like that. Anyway, back to the photos. In this first part, we're going to talk about composition, right? What is in your photo, how to capture your subject, how to tell a story with the photo. Because anybody could just drop this down on a surface, take that photo, boom, throw it up on Instagram. What I like to do is I like to create context. By itself, this knife is just a piece of metal, right? But when you start putting things around it that the knife is used with or for, then it starts to become a part of an adventure. So the first thing I'll think about, one, what is the subject of my photo? Two, what is going to be the background of the photo? What is going to be the setting of the photo? The background should help you set the scene of where the photo is, right? It is the environment. So whether you're doing it on a rock on a mountaintop, or whether you're at the beach, or whether it's just your table, right? You want something that has some character to it. You don't want to just do this on a carpet, for example, right? You want every single piece of your photo, everything in that frame to be a part of that story. So I have my background right here. I'm going to unsheath this knife because I think the little Uwinta logo on there, and show some of the wear and the finish, because it is kind of unique. The cool G10 grip panels on there. So I'm just going to have that on the table. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to surround it by things that are complementary, right? So let me just take some of my gear that I have around. Okay, so I took some items that I literally just had lying around that I would normally take with me on a hunt, put them in there. Now notice that all of these things that I put in there are complementary to the knife, but they don't distract from the knife. The knife is still very much the focus of the photo. It's positioned in the center. I wouldn't want to put something distracting like, say, one of these releases in there, because they're just too shiny and glossy, and they would take away from the attention of the knife. If you're going to tell a story, right, you have to have a main character. In this case, I have one main character for the purposes of this photo, and that is the knife. So what I did was I took some stuff in, right? So I've got my wallet, it's got some camouflage on there. I've got my binoculars, I've got a sweaty ball cap so you can tell I was on some sort of adventure. I've got a deployed broadhead with a broken arrow right there. And I've got 3 other arrows in there, right? So right away you can kind of be like, okay, this is, your mind is already starting to go with how these things could be used, or where they just came from, or what's going on. Now that I have all of my elements in the photo, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play with different angles to do the most justice to them, and I might adjust kind of the orientation and the angles of the objects in my frame very quickly, just to kind of see what really does the best job of bringing everything together. But you notice I have like a lot of earth tones in here. You know, it's got a definite theme to it. All right, so let's take a couple of photos with my phone. This is just a Google Pixel 3 XL, so not the newest and greatest, but I'll snap a couple of photos and we'll throw some of those up right now. Not bad, right? I mean, not the greatest photos in the world. I'm not entering them into any contests or anything anytime soon, but for literally grabbing a bunch of random objects around the studio and office here and throwing them on a desk and taking a photo with a 2-year-old camera, not bad. I would put that up on social media. Now that photo was edited in Lightroom Mobile, so stay tuned for part 2 and 3 where we're going to talk about, where I'll talk about different lighting setups and considerations to take into account when talking about lighting, and also editing, what software I use, and some of the settings and my kind of thought process for going through that. Now, something you might have picked up on is all of the photos that I took were captured in the vertical, right? They were taken in the vertical orientation. That is something very important to take into consideration, is where are you going to be using these photos? Are they going to be used for banners on a website? Are they going to be actual product photos? Are they going to be used on social media? Are you going to print them out and blow them up? These are all things to be taken into account. If I'm going to be posting on social media, I'm always going to take photos in the vertical orientation, and the correct aspect ratio is 4:5. That is the dimensions that photos appear on cameras. You want those social media pics to fill up as much of the screen as possible. That's what captures people's attention the most. When you do horizontal cropped photos, it just fills up too little of the screen. It almost, now with the size of the phones, it's so small that you're just going to go right past it, right? So you want to capture people's attention, you want to draw them in, you want to tell a story. Now, if you're one of those people that are saying, well, I don't want to take photos of knives, that's fine. The reason that I used the product photography as kind of the example here is because, one, that's kind of where my niche, my comfort zone is, so I feel comfortable talking about it. Two, this is something that everybody can play around with at home by themselves, right? They don't need any subjects. You don't need a camera on a timer. It's something that you can quickly mess around and play with on your own. And the same concepts that apply to product photography carry over into all other types of photography as well. You want to set a scene, you want to tell a story, you want to grab attention. You'll notice that once I had all of the subjects, or once I had all of the components to the photo in frame, I then went about taking a whole bunch of different photos from different angles. That's very important. You don't want to always just take that same straight on photo, or from the down looking up or up looking down. Try and capture a whole bunch of different angles and a whole bunch of different perspectives. That's something that I found to be key, is you don't want to get comfortable in one type of photo. You want to always be thinking about it. That's something that actually I learned from very early on when I was taking photos with a GoPro. The great thing about GoPros, even though they're very limited in terms of their capability as cameras, but they're small, they're durable, you can put them anywhere. So it allows you to mess around with different shots and different angles that you couldn't get with either a phone or a traditional camera. So that's one of the things, is a lot of photos that I take today. The reason I take those photos is because back in the day, all I had was a camera or a GoPro, and I was used to literally just wedging it somewhere, and it was an angle that somebody with a traditional camera might never have thought to take. Always be looking at new angles, always be looking at new perspectives, messing around with different shots and things like that, and play with the subjects in your photos. But if you're just getting into this, realize that this is a never-ending endeavor, right? You're never going to perfect your photography, as if you're looking to kind of be an artist with it, right? I look back on my photos from days and weeks ago and I go, that was garbage. Every other day I have to fight with myself to not delete my entire Instagram page and start over. It's a very natural reaction to have. That's how you progress, and that's how you get better. Never be comfortable. Once you master taking photos on your phone, then you can move on to professional grade cameras, and then it becomes an endless world of messing around with different lenses and settings and things like that. And that's when you can really, really go deep down the rabbit hole. But before you even get into that, it's important to master the fundamentals. And if you can't get comfortable with the tool that you already have in your pocket right now, that came off wrong. But if you can't get comfortable with that, you're never going to master that next level, right? So thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment if you have any other tips. One of the great things about the community that started around Knights of the Apex is we all feed off of each other. It's a very positive community. So if you're new to the channel or the page, welcome. Thank you all for watching, and stick around and be on the lookout for episode 2 and 3 of the series, where we will talk about lighting and editing.